Alright guys, we've got a big Nintendo Switch 2 launch update for Metroid Prime 4 and some other big news when it comes to Trails in the Sky first chapter. It's almost as if NIS America, in addition to Falcom, heard my videos talking about a Switch 2 version because we have confirmation and the full details on the demo, the upgrade path, and more. So you're going to want to stick around for everything here. But let's go ahead and first get into the big news here with Metroid Prime 4 Beyond, because it goes into what I was trying to say just the other day when I talked about it, when people were trying to say, well, it's still not 100% confirmed yet, not at this point, but it's definitely leaning towards with this ESRB rating that Metroid Prime 4 is going to drop in 2025. Now, there was some concern from fans out there, some content creators, that Metroid Prime 4 could slip to 2026 because Kirby Air Riders was dated for November 20th, 2025, and I'm not exactly sure why Kirby somehow pushes Metroid Prime 4 out of this year, but maybe because they talked about it before Metroid Prime 4, maybe that's the reason. But once again, Nintendo has actually stacked up games in months before. Even if you look at Metroid Dread, that game was in the same month as Mario Party Superstars, a big system seller, huge 10 million plus type selling game for Nintendo. That game was in the same month, in October of 2021. We also got Mario Odyssey and Fire Emblem Warriors in the same month, in October of 2017. And there's been various other things in terms of exclusives that have launched in the same month for Nintendo at the end of the year. So it wasn't something that was impossible overall, and I didn't think one really affected the other. But lately people have been kind of, I would say, spooked a little bit when it comes to Nintendo and the communication of when games are coming out, because we're getting so close to the end of the year here and there hasn't been release dates, so people are trying to piece together things themselves, and sometimes it might just get a little illogical here and there. But once again, I could be still wrong on this one, but let's get into this ESRB rating, because shout outs to Nintendo, because he spotted this first from what I saw overall, and it says that Metroid Prime 4 Beyond has been rated by the ESRB, animated blood, violence, and in-game purchases, which Nintendo always has the whole in-game purchases in there. It's anything that's on the demo or eShop or whatever the case. That doesn't mean that there's microtransactions or anything like that, so keep that in mind. So when a game is rated by the ESRB, what that means is that it's content and feature complete. There can't be anything when it comes to scenes or certain stuff that happens. They have to detail the whole game, so it gives it the appropriate age rating, and that ESRB has been around for decades now at this point, after the Mortal Kombat gate back in the early 90s or so. So I do think that since it is content complete, since it is playable at Gamescom, since they've had this game already shown off multiple times at this point, and it's the fourth in the main line series with a number of other ones as well, but the fourth big numbered title, you don't need some type of massive campaign to talk about it beforehand. It doesn't need to be that long. It could be a month or 2 months. So I could absolutely see Nintendo, when it comes to what Switchforce said, where Switchforce said, hey, look, the next Nintendo Direct is coming sooner than you would expect, on a day that you didn't expect. I do think that it's very possible of an early September Nintendo Direct, with a Metroid Prime 4 release date announced, but also with the added extra that we are going to get shadow dropped Metroid Prime 2 and Metroid Prime 3 in a Pikmin 2 and 3 type of package, where they both come together on a physical cart, or they both come together in a digital purchase, and they're essentially 1080p 60 versions of just those original games from the GameCube and from the Wii. That's what I think that's going to happen with this, so it gives people a bit of time. You can pick up the shadow drop Metroid Prime 2 and 3 right after the presentation ends, or shortly after the presentation ends, and then you can pick up Metroid Prime 4 Beyond either in October sometime, or potentially even November or December. Like some people saying that it's going to be a December game. I'm not so sure about that if the rating is now at this point. Some people think it's going to be an early November game, kind of pair it up with Kirby Air Riders for a 1-2 punch of more of the mid-tier type of games when it comes to selling potential. And then some people might think it's October, because you can pair it up with Pokemon, and that creates a really strong core gamer 1-2 push with the side of casual as well with Pokemon. So I think really any month it fits, because Metroid Prime 4 Beyond, it's going to have its own set install base. It doesn't really interfere with anything else. It's not like Kirby Air Riders. It's not like Pokemon. It's not like a lot of the other games that are going to be coming out alongside it or coming out with it in the same month, if it does stack up in a month, or even if Hyrule Warriors Age of Imprisonment comes out one of these months as well. Like, it doesn't really fit with any of those because it has its own set install base of 2 million plus of people that are going to rush out and buy Metroid Prime 4 as soon as it's available. And then of course you can get other people through word of mouth and the popularity of the Switch 1 and the Switch 2 combined install base. There's going to be a variety of factors that's going to help the game sell outside of that super dedicated day one base of people. So that's what makes me excited about this ESRB rating. But once again, I want to stress that doesn't 100% mean that it's coming out this year. It's just far more likely now at this point that it's coming out in 2025, like Nintendo has said, because of this ESRB rating. So what do you guys think about this when it comes to Metroid Prime 4 Beyond? Let me know in the comment section below. But before we get into the next topic, please make sure you hit that like button, subscribe if you're someone new, and click that notification bell if you are enjoying this type of content with Nintendo Switch 2 news. All right, let's go ahead and jump into the next thing here. Let's talk about Trails in the Sky first chapter. We've got some incredible news to go over here, guys. I'm very excited about this. We've got an official Nintendo Switch 2 version that will be available day and date with the PlayStation 5, Nintendo Switch 1, and PC versions, and even better when it comes to the upgrade path and what they're doing. Super consumer friendly here. I love it 100% here. So let's go ahead and jump right into this. Falcom released a Switch 2 version of Trails in the Sky first chapter alongside its previously announced versions, and a prologue demo is now available for the PlayStation 5, Nintendo Switch, and PC via Steam, although the Nintendo Switch version of the prologue demo, as of the time that I'm recording this video, is not available. It might be available now at this point, but it's not available as of the time that I'm recording, so we'll see when that happens for the Nintendo Switch 1. And here's the cool thing about the Nintendo Switch 2 version of the game. Now, unfortunately, it's going to be a digital only release worldwide for the Nintendo Switch 2 version with no plans for a physical edition. It will offer higher resolution and frame rate on the Switch 2 version, as well as faster load times compared to the Nintendo Switch 1 version. Here's the cool thing though. Users who purchase the Switch version in either physical or digital format will be able to upgrade to the Nintendo Switch 2 version by purchasing the upgrade path for the incredibly high price of $1 or 150 yen. And yes, I'm being a little bit sarcastic there, guys. Obviously, $1 is a very low price for this. So to play the Switch 2 version, you must purchase the Switch version and the upgrade pack. Now let's get a little bit of an overview of the demo. This is a free demo version of Trails in the Sky first chapter, a remake of the iconic first chapter of the Trails series that redefined the JRPG genre and set the Trails series on its legendary path. In the demo version, players can experience the prologue of the story. Any save data can be carried over to the full version of the game to continue the journey. Some specifications from the demo may differ from the final version, so that's awesome. So I'm not going to play the PlayStation 5 version right now because I don't want to transfer that over, but maybe I'll just do it just to kind of get a taste of it. But yeah, either way, Estelle Bright and her adoptive brother Joshua, as they set out on their path as bracers, taking the task across the Roland region as their father Cactus's absence. When the strange events begin to unfold on their quest to rise through the ranks of the Bracer Guild, they must quickly prove their worth in this gripping adventure of intrigue and peril. Lose yourself in the beginning of this unforgettable first adventure in this trial version. Start training to become a senior bracer in the Liberal Kingdom. Travel through the Roland region, play as Estelle, Joshua, and another person. The demo will accumulate in an exhilarating boss fight. You can immerse yourself in the meticulously crafted world, fight your way through the first 4 dungeons. Ooh, nice there. Complete the first 7 main events and 8 optional subquests. Encounter NPCs with unique dialogue and additional quests. Command intuitive, fast-paced battles. Switch between real-time and turn-based combat to seamlessly fight foes. Unlock chain and follow-up attacks. Experience modern gameplay mechanics, brand new voiceovers in English and Japanese, vivid, high-definition 3D graphics. Now, to carry over your demo save data, make sure to update to the latest version of the game. Trails in the Sky first chapter is due out for the PlayStation 5, Nintendo Switch, and PC via Steam on September 19th worldwide, and of course the Nintendo Switch 2 as well. So very excited about this. And once again, I've been talking about how there needs to be a Nintendo Switch 2 version over and over and over. And it's interesting. There's not the whole game key card controversy thing with this, because you have an incredibly cheap upgrade path with the Nintendo Switch 1 cartridge. Now, yes, you still have to download that data, but at least that game is on the cartridge overall. So I'm wondering if a lot of developers might start doing things like this more often, or at least the smaller developers when it comes to Falcom and stuff like that, because Falcom and I think like NIS, these people have way more people that like physical gaming outside of people that maybe play Street Fighter or Madden or these type of games that can do game key cards, and it won't necessarily be as big of a deal. So I do think that this might be the path. If they're not trying to pay for that 64 gigabyte cartridge, and they honestly probably wouldn't pay for a 32 gigabyte because that would be too expensive as well, just because the file sizes are just getting bigger and bigger and those cartridge sizes are expensive. I think this might be the next best thing. Just have it digital only on the Nintendo Switch 2, have a Switch 1 version of the game, then an upgrade path. The only problem that we could run into here is that if they drop the Nintendo Switch 1 in the future for just Switch 2, and there's nothing that they've done yet to kind of solve the cartridge situation overall, or they're just gonna have to bite the bullet and pay for that cartridge, considering the install base will be significantly high by the time that they decide to not support the Nintendo Switch 1 anymore. But considering the install base of the Nintendo Switch 1, I think that Falcom is going to support it for quite some time. Heck, they were supporting the Vita for a while after it was pretty much already dead. So I think that Falcom will still support the Nintendo Switch 1 with a variety of different games. So I don't think anything's gonna happen soon at this point. So we should still get Nintendo Switch 1 versions of games, no problem at all. And then of course, if they want to do an upgrade here, they can do that. There's been a lot of talk about the Falcom, the NIS America, their games when it comes to game key cards not selling at all, still having a lot of stock left when it comes to the special editions and all that. And this is one way to kind of get rid of all that. And you don't got to worry about the negative PR hit, and it actually turns into a positive with a $1 upgrade overall. So that's pretty good. Can't really complain too much about that, outside if you just wanted the Nintendo Switch 2 box art. But what do you guys think when it comes to Trails in the Sky, the first chapter? I'm super excited to get into this game. I cannot wait to try things out. I think it's going to be a great remake of a game, and finally a starting point for people who have never got into the Trails series before. You can finally start here and work your way up. So very excited about that as well. But what do you guys think when it comes down to this? Let me know in the comment section below. All right, let's go ahead and let's talk about what is happening with Elden Ring on the Nintendo Switch 2, because the game was playable at Gamescom and people are reporting that it was a disaster, or more like IGN is reporting that it was a disaster in handheld mode. So Bandai Namco, it seems like for right now, once again, game isn't out yet, there's probably still a few more months before it comes out, so things could get better, but IGN was reporting not so good. Unlike Final Fantasy VII Remake Integrated, which is also playable on the Nintendo Switch 2 at Gamescom, and from what we're understanding there, from what people are saying, it plays great. So let's go ahead and get into what IGN had to say about it. Quote, "We played Elden Ring Tarnished Edition in handheld mode on Switch 2 and came away very disappointed with the game's performance, especially when in the open areas like Limgrave. Frame rate drops were significant when turning the camera whilst exploring outside the tutorial area, and this combined with the confusing button layout on Switch 2 made combat confusing and exploration fairly dispiriting. We weren't allowed to record gameplay at the booth, probably due to this fact, but you can hear our thoughts on Elden Ring Switch 2 handheld gameplay in this video. Elden Ring Tarnished Edition releases in 2025, so hopefully there's time for Bandai Namco to work on its performance." So here's what I would say with this. How do you have a confusing button layout? That makes no sense to me. The Nintendo Switch 2, when it comes to the Joy-Cons and the buttons, it's all the same. It has the same amount as Xbox and PlayStation for the most part. So I'm not exactly sure how they somehow mess up the button layout. That just is super weird, but whatever. Maybe that's the case. Okay, you can remap on the Nintendo Switch 2. You have the Nintendo Switch 2 Pro controllers, so you'll have the GL and GR, so there'll be ways to get around that overall, but what's up with the performance going on here? Like, what is happening? Bandai Namco's had a shoddy record. It's not a long record so far with the Nintendo Switch 2, but they've had some issues with the Switch 1, and now here with the Nintendo Switch 2, it's been very hit and miss, hot and cold when it comes to some of their games. And performance, when it comes to portable mode, is going to be a big thing for this game, because Elden Ring is a very long game with a ton of content. So portability play is very important for people who want to be able to play this game on the go anywhere that they want. So that should have been the number one thing that they optimized overall. That should have been something they say, okay, this is what makes this version of the game unique. You don't need a PC handheld or something else. This game is not optimized great on a lot of different platforms, but clearly this is not good enough at all, especially since the Nintendo Switch 2 is more powerful than the Xbox One, is more powerful than the PlayStation 4. It should run better than both of those, no problem whatsoever, and it does not seem to be the case here. Now, once again, they didn't allow them to capture any type of footage, and the game still just has a blank 2025 release. So I'm thinking that they're still trying to kind of see how far they can go before the game can be released. So this to me might be a December type of game, and if not December, then it's probably going to get delayed to early 2026 if they still can't work out those details, because the last thing that you want to do is launch a game as good as Elden Ring in a terrible state on a new platform where you could get a lot of sales and a lot of double dipping from people who'd want to be able to play Elden Ring anywhere that they want and are willing to take some sacrifices here and there, but you can't have super massive frame drops all over the place in that. So I'm hoping that things do turn around with this, but once again, probably an older build of the game. There's still quite some time, and there was no docked play of it, so we still have to see how docked play is. So we're going to find out later in the year. So what do you guys think overall when it comes to everything that we talked about here, from Metroid Prime 4 to Trails in the Sky, and of course, Elden Ring Tarnished Edition? Let me know in the comment section below. All right, guys, that wraps it up for this video here. Thank you so much for watching. I do appreciate it. Please make sure you hit that like button, subscribe if you're someone new, click that notification bell, and check out my other Nintendo Switch 2 RPG content and more right here on screen. Thanks for watching, and we'll catch you guys for the next one. Peace.